in order to keep that sort of highly centralized state intact, we should rely more on the slogan of Islam. And this started even during Mr. Bhutto's time. The other option was to make it a republican state, to make people the sovereign of the country. There were three prime ministers then, and then People's Party's government in Muslim leagues, and then Imran Khan. That was the idea of trichotomy of powers that was there in our constitution. Instead of developing it further, we sort of neutralized it, and that philosophy is no more there.
Hello and welcome to New Wave History. This is a very special conversation with Dr. Jaffer Ahmed, who is a very well-known, renowned scholar and academic from Pakistan, of course, for decades. He's been teaching at various universities in multiple capacities. He's a professor of politics, history, and has led the Pakistan Studies Center at University of Karachi for a long time. Dr. Jaffar not only has authored many papers, but has published more than 20 books. So I'm really honored, Dr. Jaffar, for your presence here, and we shall start our conversation. What I want to know today, and I'm sure many viewers, especially the younger ones, would be interested to know, a term often used as ideology of Pakistan. And of course, the state has its own version. The state has, periodically defined and redefined it. And but in effect, what do we mean by that? I mean, is there an ideology of Pakistan? I think that's the first question to address, and then we can go into the historical roots of how Pakistan movement, emerged in the early parts of the 20th century, and how through the 20th century, the Pakistani identity and whatever is Pakistan or the Pakistani state has evolved over time. Over to you, Dr. Saab.
Okay, thank you very much, Raza Saab. It's a pleasure to be in your company. As far as this issue of ideology is concerned, of course, the state of Pakistan claims that it is an ideological state, and it further claims, or the claimants of the Islamic ideology or the Pakistan ideology suggests that Pakistan and Israel are two ideological states in the world. I often mention that in the first place, it is not a good idea to compare Pakistan or to relate Pakistan with Israel. Israel primarily is a racist state, and if we take Pakistan of Muhammad Ali Jinnah, it was a modern democratic state, or had to be a modern democratic state first. The second thing is that this is a very common thing when people say that Pakistan is an ideological state, and as if this is something unique to Pakistan. I often mention that all states have their ideology. At times they say it in so many words, at times they do not need do not feel the need to sort of keep harping about their ideology, but ideological states are very common in this world. I mean, North Korea is an ideological state. India is an ideological state. Initially, or for some decades, it was a secular state. Now it has become a Hindutva state. So states have ideologies. The issue is this, that what is presented as this ideology of Pakistan in Pakistan, what are its historical roots? Did Jinnah want this to be the ideology of Pakistan, or he had some other view about the ideology of Pakistan? If you go by his 11th August 1948 speech in the Constituent Assembly of Pakistan, he gave a vision of Pakistan wherein Pakistan had to be a modern democratic state. He didn't use the word secular, but whatever was the content of that speech suggested that it had to be a secular state where the state would look at its citizens with the same lens, and the constitution and the laws would not bifurcate the citizenry. That was quite obvious, and he said it in so many words that I think there cannot be a better explanation of secularism than the one presented in his speech.
Dr. Jaffar, I'll just interject here for a moment. Absolutely, I also think it was a very clear declaration of what Jinnah had envisioned. But the critics argue that he had also said other things prior to that speech and later, which contradicted this idea of a pluralistic secular country. So, what would you say to that? Because I'm sure you have seen these criticisms and these views on Jinnah's shifting positions.
Okay, there are two things. First of all, I would give primacy to this speech because he was delivering this speech at a point when one phase of his political struggle had come to an end and another had to start. He was delivering the speech as the founder of the nation. He was delivering this speech as the elected president of the Constituent Assembly of Pakistan. He was delivering this speech as the would-be Governor General of the country, and he was already the president of Muslim League. So he had four caps when he was delivering this speech. In this speech, he has not only mentioned what Pakistan should be, he has also mentioned very categorically why we have reached this point. And there he explains the whole struggle of the last 3 or 4 decades. He says that the primary conflict in India was between a cultural majority and a cultural minority, and there was a likelihood that in United India, this cultural majority would become a permanent political majority, and the cultural minority will become a permanent political minority. That was the crux of the whole issue he had understood in 20th century India. And all his recipes or solutions he offered on different occasions were aimed at resolving this, what he used the word for this, this ambiguities or anomalies of majority or minority communities.
Right.
One. The second thing, he referred to Islam many a time, okay, before partition and even after partition. But there, I mean, very clearly, yeah, I mean, he was not suggesting as if Islam has given some constitutional manual which we will be adopting. He was talking about Islam as a cultural value, as a value system. Uh,
Hmm.
like all religions, Islam also speaks about equality. Islam talks about social justice, fair play. All those values of Islam, they were there in his mind. They were there in the mind of Iqbal also when they were talking about a political system. Iqbal said that the parliament of the Muslim society, of the Muslim country, would be entitled to do ijtihad, and Jinnah also believed that parliament as a sovereign body would make the constitution of Pakistan based on the values of Islam. He was not saying that a particular sort of state structure or a political system had been given by Islam which he would be adopting. Time and again, I mean, if he didn't use the word secular, he did use the word theocracy and kept on saying that Pakistan would not be a theocracy. Now, why he was talking about Pakistan not being a theocracy? Of course, he knew that the Christians will be a very, very little minority. There was no question of a theocracy on the pattern of the Western society. He was referring to the clergy of Pakistan, that they will not be in the driving seat, they will not be the people who would determine the constitution and the laws of the country.
Dr. Jaffar, that's indeed a very interesting and a very solid perspective on what was happening at that time. So, we do see that this term wasn't formally properly used. I think way before. I mean, not until the 1960s. Under when General Yahya Khan's minister, one of the other generals, I think it was General Patodi or someone who actually referred to this term. And so, what was happening then? What did they mean by this term, and why did they come up with this with this construct? No, I mean the way we now understand it.
Raza Sahab, the term ideology was used even before that,
Right.
at times by the functionaries of the state also, and
Hmm.
by political Islamist organizations. Yeah, in fact, Jamaat-e-Islami was using it, and they had published in its Nazariya-e-Pakistan number of their periodical. Um, Jinnah was not using the word ideology. Quite interestingly, he used the term theory of Pakistan, and this he used more than once. Theory of Pakistan. Theory of Pakistan is a totally different, connotation as compared to the term ideology. But during General Yahya Khan's time, this term gained currency because Nawab Patodi, General Patodi, he was also using it with Sher Ali Khan, and this was the period when we had a conflict of, a strong ideological conflict in Pakistan, socialism versus Islam. There were political parties like People's Party and National Awami Party, even Awami League. They were talking about socialism. Jamiat-e-Ulama Islam of those days were talking about Islamic socialism. They were influenced by Arab nationalism also. And Jamaat-e-Islami was talking about Islamic ideology and Islamic state. So there was this conflict in the late 1960s, early 1970s. But in the elections of 1970, we see that those three parties, which were not selling the idea of Islamic ideology, they won the elections. People's Party and National Awami Party here in the western part of the country, and Awami League there in East Pakistan. But this phrase ideology of Pakistan resurfaced after the military operation in East Pakistan, and thereafter during Mr. Bhutto's period.
Right. And, and since Mr. Bhutto's last years and the arrival of General Zia-ul-Haq, for that whole decade, we see that the state was also refashioned and reimagined and uh, to some degree re-engineered as well along the Islamic nationalist lines, Dr. Jaffar. And then we saw this term. I mean, when I was a student during the 1980s, we remember this really ideological sort of, push from the education system as well, the subject Pakistan studies, etc., etc. So, I mean, do you think that, that was something that after 1971's debacle, Pakistani state and the elites took a new understanding of the country moving forward?
Yes, actually, they thought that now, in order to keep that highly centralized state intact, we should rely more on the slogan of Islam. And this started even during Mr. Bhutto's time, because you see that the constitution that was made that had clauses, for the first time, Islam was declared as the state religion of Pakistan. And in the constitution, there had been articles which gave due importance to this ideological status of the country. So much so that that in 1975, when National Awami Party was banned, and the case was carried out in the Supreme Court of the country. Mr. Yahya Bakhtiar, who was the Attorney General of the country at that time, he kept on or going that National Awami Party does not believe in the ideology of Pakistan. And that decision by the court, led by Justice Hamudur Rahman, wrote it in the decision that since this party did not believe in the ideology of Pakistan, it is not a pro-Pakistan organization. And the decision of banning of it was endorsed by the Supreme Court. So this had already started. But then, when the PNA movement was launched against Mr. Bhutto, originally it was launched with the claim that elections have been rigged. But then, when 30 or 31 points were given by PNA to talk to Mr. Bhutto, at that point they gave to it the Tehreek-e-Nizam-e-Mustafa title and made it an Islamic sort of movement. And Zia-ul-Haq tried to draw his legitimacy on this movement, on this slogan, and then carried out the Islamization process in the country.
This is actually so interesting, Yahya Bakhtiar, the Attorney General of a secular, ostensibly secular socialist party, was using this terminology. But Dr. Jaffar, since the 1980s and onwards, we are now, I mean, those kind of changes seem to be permanent. I mean, there's a lot of discussion and debate, but when it comes to laws, the constitution, the way minorities are imagined in the country, it seems that it cannot be changed. And what are the factors since the last, let's say, 30, 40 years, that Pakistan's political elites, when even people wanting to, I mean, one can imagine that late Benazir Bhutto was not a subscriber to this Ziaist ideology, but sadly, they and other succeeding politicians and other elites, they could not really do anything about it because it seems to be now a permanently embedded in the fabric of the society and the state.
Basically, I would say that political parties are compelled to do this, even if they are secular in other matters and even if they are secular in their methods, but they will have to talk about it and they will have to present it as their agenda. The fact is that the issue is the character of the state itself. Okay, now since the state that came into being in 1947 and soon after the death of Qaid-e-Azam, it was a state which had no popular sort of authority. And in order to get legitimacy, the state relied on an ideology of Islam. And that remains so even today. Since the state is weak, it doesn't have legitimacy. It is not, the political system is not reflective of the aspirations and interests of the common people of the country. It is an imposed sort of system. Therefore, a state, in the first place, would rely on this ideology in order to seek legitimacy for itself. Moreover, ideology serves many other purposes also. It unites the people. It brings the people under the fold of the state, and whatever the state is doing. Uh, it is a means of seeking courtship for the state. And states often courts support or affiliation or the adherence of the people in the name of ideology. And that is what all states do, and that is what our state is doing. So, I mean, this is something which is a post-partition phenomenon, and I would say that more the state needs legitimacy, more it relies on the Islamic ideology. This has been the story of Pakistan.
Yes, exactly. So I think that is the idea, that unity. But Dr. Jaffer, I mean, we did see that, sadly, the use of religious rhetoric or religious identity could not keep the two wings. I know it was far more complex and complicated East Pakistan and West Pakistan. So in a way, it could not bind these two units and the two disparate sets of people. I mean, in fact, many sets of people together. So do you think that the post 1980s or post idea of unifying the country under this banner can actually succeed given the historical antecedents?
No, it has not succeeded. The state had no option but to use it. The other option was to make it a republican state, to make people the sovereign of the country, and their sovereignty and their sort of urges should have reflected in the system. But since that is not there, so state has no other option but to rely on the ideology of Islam, what they call it, ideology of Islam. It did not succeed in 1970-71, even though East Pakistan was as Muslim as the western part of the country. At the time of the debacle of East Pakistan, there were 700 mosques in Dhaka alone. So, and we see even today, you see the reflection of Bangladeshi society, their aspirations regarding Islam. That has not worked there, and that has not worked even in the rest of the Pakistan. Here you see in Pakistan, I mean, there have been struggles in Balochistan, there had been struggles
Yes.
in the province of Sindh and elsewhere, and the people are not satisfied with this fabric. They want their practical and pragmatic interest to be reflected in the system. And there they are not satisfied by the doses of this ideology.
Yes, exactly. So I think that is where we need to really reimagine. I think there was a departure under General Musharraf briefly, at least in terms of rhetoric, but even he could not do much. He spoke about enlightened moderation, brought in some changes to the Hudud laws, minor modifications, and then later on we see that some efforts have been made. But Dr. Jaffar, overall, the state still seems insistent on using this as a binding force. While many people have said that Pakistan can also reimagine itself, like it can look at itself as a nation state based on territory, or a nation state which inspires or takes inspiration from, let's say, the heritage, like the Indus Valley civilization, or the Gandhara, or the other, cultural and historical threads that weave or bring Pakistanis together. So do you think that that is ever possible, or we are so kind of now given to the idea that every that Pakistan was made in the name of religion, it was made in the name of Islam, and ironically, the Indians keep on saying that, and keep on saying that because Pakistan was created in the name of religion and turned into an Islamic state, so we have a justification to turn India into a Hindu nationalist state from a secular polity.
Yeah, actually, there are two things. Briefly, I will say that you refer to General Musharraf's liberalization. I would say that it was more of an individual's sort of way of thinking. Otherwise, the institution had not changed its perceptions, the state had not changed its perceptions. I do remember that I used to sit in the committees of courses redesigning and curriculum redesigning, and there I saw that there was not a single sort of a departure from what it used to be. People who were sitting in the committees, they were saying the same old things that even in Pakistan up until 2000 we were not teaching to the students the separation of East Pakistan. I made a research and I found out, surveyed all the courses being taught in different provinces of the country. there was no mention about the dismemberment of Pakistan in any course. So, total blackout, and there was just one or two sentences that India has broken Pakistan, that type of thing. Regarding your second part of your question, I would say that reimagining Pakistan, to me, perhaps we would require some better phrase for it. I would say that going back to the essentials and going back to the fundamentals on the basis of which the country was established. Pakistan had to be a federal state, Pakistan had to be a democratic state, it had to be a social welfare state. That was there in the agenda behind the creation of Pakistan, and realizing that it would be such a sort of diverse society in Pakistan with such rich cultural, variations and historical cultures, that Pakistan could not be managed in a unitary type of a state. So federalism was imbued in the idea of Pakistan, and Pakistan came into being in a manner that the modalities of creation of Pakistan also suggest that it had to be a federation, because provinces were asked if they wanted to join the Federation of India or would like to establish a federation of their own. So the Muslim majority provinces voted for a federation of their own. Pakistan was not created by a center. Pakistan was created by the federating units. Therefore, it had to be a federation, a viable federation, in which this type of overwhelmingly centralized state structure would never succeed.
Right, that is a very important point. So, one theme, of course, is the state's push to create a unifying ideology. But the issue of federalism, which is still has come back. Of course, the in 2010, the 18th Amendment brought in many changes and enhanced provincial autonomy. But now again, there's a inclination to revise that and re-centralize the state, but we'll see where that goes. So, Dr. Jaffar, what General Musharraf exits in early 21st century, and since then we've had like successive three or four civilian regimes, and this has also been a time of economic and political crisis, polycrisis, as many call it. But in throughout this, have you seen any efforts, or do you think that after the 18th Amendment, have there been any changes by the provinces to address this issue of Pakistan's identity, Pakistan's ideology, reforming the curricula, because all these things are interlinked, or is it more of the same?
First of all, I'll say that in the 21st century, in the last 25 years, one good thing, if you like to call it a good thing, is that since the elections of 2002, all parliaments have completed their term of 5 years, right? But there are other factors also, other features also. All the political regimes have been hybrid regimes in this period, whether that was under General Musharraf. There were three prime ministers then, and then People's Party's government and Muslim Leagues, and then Imran Khan. These are all, by and large, hybrid regimes. Parliament was not supreme. And then in these 25 years, we saw another phenomenon taking place in Pakistan, and that was the idea of trichotomy of powers that was there in our constitution. Instead of developing it further, we sort of neutralized it and that philosophy is no more there. We see that at times, the executive tried to become dominant over the judiciary. Then judiciary tried to become dominant on the executive, and in the last few years we have seen this. 18th Amendment tried to keep judiciary at its place, but then judiciary retaliated and forced the parliament to pass the 19th Amendment, through which the judges once again took the responsibility of appointing judges themselves. And then that was tried to be corrected in the 26th Amendment and further in the 27th, but then the system tilted towards the parliamentary dictate rather than creating a balance between judiciary and the parliament. So this type of thing is happening, and one doesn't know how long will it go.
Yes.
This is, but I would say that coming back to your first previous question, I think that we'll have to uh, look back at the rationale behind the creation of this country. Why at all certain regions of India were separated from the rest of India, and a new federation was tried to be created. I mean, that federation could not be established, and that needs to be established with the parliamentary democracy and with the social welfare, social justice, for which Jinnah used the term Islam time and again.
Absolutely. Social justice. I think even in the 11th August speech, we often mention the secular part, but he did talk about redistribution, about jobbery, about social welfare. That's a very central part of that speech. Uh, you know. So, Dr. Jaffar, that was a very, again, a very insightful overview of the previous 2 decades or so. But I think, this is such a critical juncture. I think I also sometimes feel that perhaps we have not really properly looked into some of the factors that are shaping the contemporary Pakistan. Of course, the historical baggage and shadow is long, but things like the rise of Urdu language. More and more people speak Urdu language, as compared to, let's say, a few decades ago. In a way, the initial idea that Urdu would become a unifier, it now seems to be coming to fruition. We also see how sub-nationalist or the nationalist movements, let's say in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, have been replaced by by the PTI politics. The nationalists have retreated while there are other and yes, in Balochistan we have that, but even in Sindh, a federal party seems to dominate in rural Sindh, at least, the political arena compared to the nationalist or separatist movements. So, in a way, I mean, there is a very patchy and rough, but somehow, the idea of Pakistaniyat or Pakistani, a people's identity is taking root. Would you agree with this raw observation of mine?
No, I will like to put it in different words. In
Sure.
the first place, I don't see there is a conflict between Urdu as national language and other languages of Pakistan, which should also be recognized as national languages. There is no doubt that a middle class has emerged in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and in Sindh, and they are also claiming for education, they are claiming for jobs, and they have their pragmatic interests, and in that pragmatic interest, many of their pragmatic interests are served within the framework of a federal Pakistan. Economy of the country has spread all over the country. It is a very interconnected economy. Provinces do not have their very distinct economies, It's an interdependent economy. They are also this emerging middle class, and the emerged middle class is sort of becoming a source of integration. But it does not mean that their association with their respective languages has weakened. In fact, that has grown. I mean, since I move around in the country, I see that the roots of Sindhi culture and the roots of Sindhi language are more prominent now as compared to 15 years back or 20 years back. The same is the case in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, same is the case in Balochistan. Even in Punjab, now we see that people, intelligentsia of Punjab, awakening to the fact that they should also stand by their cultures and should take pride in their language. So I think that this dual process is going on in Pakistan, which is very good. That on the one hand, the pragmatic interests, economic interests, the political interests are bringing people or the ruling classes or the representatives of the people closer. And that's why we see that certain political parties of the country have following in different provinces, maybe more in one province and not that much in other province, but they are national parties. And on the other hand, this regional nationalism or regional nationalistic sentiments, they have not gone down, they have become more prominent today. And that you can see when you go and observe the institutions, the provincial
Correct.
assemblies, the educational institutions, the pattern in which universities are being established in the provinces. There you will find this sentiment expressing itself.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Very, thank you for framing it like that. These are seemingly paradoxical trends, but they are taking shape side by side. So this duality, as you call it, and uh, and I think if we look at it from a dialectical point of view, so this will probably lead to another outcome in the uh, maybe decade or so or more, because while they are seemingly contradictory, they are also testifying to the plural and diverse nature of Pakistan, which has always been, we have tried to suppress it, you know. So, yeah. So, Dr. Jaffar, finally, and I'll let you go after that. So, one other area which is again shaped by history, happens to be, our you mentioned the hybridity of regimes, and definitely the previous three civilian governments were hardly civilian. I mean, they were a mixture of civilian and military order. But that has been a trend throughout Pakistan's history from early 50s, when General Ayub Khan at that time became a member of the as a chief, and again an unprecedented, at least in this region, and there were of course eras and gaps where when their power waned a little bit, but it seems that that is also a permanent sort of reality of Pakistani state, structure and power distribution system within that state. Do you see that? I mean, is there a pushback to it? Is it likely to change, or we should just say, well, this is how it is? So,
No, actually, this civil military imbalance in the country has gradually become acute in the past, and today
mm,
we see that the military has come to exercise its power and its influence on almost all areas of national life, education and economy, and particularly in the economy, So on the one side, I would say that this route will take us to where eventually this will not continue. I wouldn't like to call it it would collapse this whole system, but some culminating point would be reached from where we'll have to retreat. The other, I would say, important thing is this, that the this civil military imbalance, this has now transmitted to the people also. This is something which is being, this is not merely, or this is not today only the issue of the military officers on the one side and the political leaders on the other side. This sort of division has filtered down at the grounds level, and people themselves are not now feeling the temperature of it, and they are realizing that in their everyday life, this feature is influencing their normal life. So I think that uh, uh, some reaction will take place. I would pray that it doesn't take a violent shape, because those violent shapes we have seen around us in Nepal, in Bangladesh, and elsewhere. Hope that the political people who have submitted to this arrangement would realize that for the continuity of the country and stability of the country, and the term we use very often these days for the national security, people should take the charge of the state.
Yes, exactly. Uh, Dr. Jaffer, this leads me to the final issue, and I think it's a very important thing that you raised. Is do you think that that the conditions that existed in Bangladesh and Nepal, and let's say another some of the other countries like Madagascar and Kenya, where you've had these uprisings, are those conditions present in Pakistan? And are they strong enough to lead to such a public movement?
I mean, at the surface of it, things look similar, because resentment is also there in Pakistan, and the grievances are there in Pakistan. Youth is, directionless. 60% people of the country are below the age of 30 years. They don't see
Hmm.
any future for them in this country, so grievances are there. But will this will turn into an eruption at the national level? There is less likelihood, because not because of any good sort of management skill of the state, but because Bangladesh was more of a homogeneous society, and
Hmm. Hmm.
Sri Lanka is a small country, and Nepal is also a small country. Pakistan is a huge country, and their dynamics of politics and dynamics of people's way of expressing themselves vary from region to region. So there is likelihood that a nationwide uprising may not take place, but difficulties will remain there at the regional level, and different uprisings on different levels in different provinces would keep coming up. We have seen in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, we have seen it in at times in Balochistan also in the past. So this type of thing may happen in future also, but I don't see that type of eruption all over Pakistan simultaneously at a time.
Yes, that is indeed a very sobering and a very pragmatic, astute view of the situation, because I also think we should hesitate from drawing quick comparisons. Dr. Jaffar, this was such a pleasure, not just listening to you, but also learning alongside some of the facets of how Pakistan's ideological past has evolved and how it shapes and influences the present and perhaps the future as well. I really look forward to conversing with you in the coming weeks and months, and I hope you give us time because there's so much there that we want to put online for many people, sadly, who don't read or or may not have the time to read, but at least they can listen to scholars and thinkers like you and learn about Pakistan and the region. With that, once again, thank you very much.